Hey there, I'm Jennifer Angel. This is my astrological report, my overview, planetary overview for October. Can you believe it? We're already in October. This year has just gone way too fast for me. So, yeah, anyway, time does fly. And as we know, everybody has the same amount of time. It's what we do with it that counts. All right, so let's get into the chart here and see what's going on. We do have the eclipses are coming up. We do have a full moon, which is just a normal full moon. It's in Aries, so as I say, sometimes the full moon brings out the crazies. I'm sure I read somewhere or heard somewhere that the police department sort of note full moons because there's more activity out there when that's going on. It's true, isn't it? But then later in the month, around the 25th, and I'm quoting the Greenwich time here, so right through. So in USA and other areas around the world, it could be slightly different, a little bit beforehand, day before or so. But the new moon, which is when the moon and the sun are together on the 25th, that is going to be a solar eclipse. Okay, and the new moon is great because it just opens it up. It's like new opportunities coming through, and when it's an eclipse, it's a partial eclipse but still very strong. It's like just added intensity because it like a push forward with that. And so it is happening, taking place in the sign of Scorpio. And so if you've got anything in your chart for Scorpio, you want to have a look at that. And then there's going to be a lunar eclipse, and it's a total lunar eclipse, so it's very powerful, and that's on 7th and 8th of November, depending on where you are in the world, but we're going to be covering that in next month's chart. So there's a lot of retrograde this month coming in and going out. Now you want to keep in mind that whenever there's an aspect or retrograde, when it's applying, coming into the aspect or the retrograde is much stronger than when it's separating, going out. I mean, now that, of course, that I've said that, I'm going to prove myself wrong at some point, but in theory, that's the case. And, I do feel that as well. Generally with the retrogrades, particularly with the Mercury retrograde, it always feels to me like it's stronger. I generally feel it sort of kick in about, 5-7 days beforehand. So I don't know whether you, feel that as well. And things can get a little bit, confusing, let's say confusing for want of another word, mixed up. And I think, wow, what's going on? Open the ephemeris. Oh yeah, okay, we're leading into the retrograde, or we're leading into a major connection. So you want to sort of keep that in mind. So we are going to come out of the Mercury retrograde right at the start of this month. Excuse me, on the 2nd, but do keep in mind that it's always, even though technically it does actually kick in a good week beforehand, for me it's always the 2 or 3 days like either side of that retrograde, and that's when it's a turning that has like the greatest energy effect. So I try to not do major things like signing contracts or starting new things until we get past that point. But having said that, I did just launch a podcast in Mercury retrograde. I consciously did it because it's been something that's been on the drawing board and thinking about it and fine-tuning, and certainly through the retrograde transit, I've been just, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And so because it started a long time beforehand, I decided not to wait the couple of weeks until it came out of it. So I did it in the middle of the retrograde. So I hope I don't regret that, but you know, it should be fine. And you know, as I say, you know, life doesn't always wait for Mercury to come out of retrograde. Sometimes you just have to, you know, push through. So I'll let you know how that goes for me. So far, so good. It's been like huge sort of learning curve doing things. And of course, Mercury retrograde is a great time to do that, and great time to learn and, you know, get involved with the things. So, you know, that's all good there. The other planets, if we just stay on the retrograde for a while, Pluto is coming out of retrograde as well. That's the 8th. That's in Capricorn. By the way, Mercury is coming out of retrograde in Virgo, one of the signs that rules, and Mercury is going to go through 3 signs this month. Yeah, not that unusual. It does happen. So it's going to move into the next sign now that it's going, you know, going direct. It's going to move into Libra, and then it will move into a Scorpio. So a lot of the concentration of planetary placements and activity are in Libra and Scorpio this month. So that, you know, and it's very, very different energies. I mean, the Libra energies are ruled by Venus, so it's more about relationships, and it's also, you know, about love and connecting with people and just taking a step back and looking at things a little bit more in depth. Like, is this going to be good for me? What happens if I go this path? What happens if I go that path? Okay, they are textbook called the sign of procrastination, but you know what? I don't like to look at it that way. It's like, you know, they're just covering their bases. You know, the thing is, you want to just not get too stuck. As soon as we start to overthink things, which Virgo can do, and particularly with Mercury in Virgo, you can get that sort of overthinking. Sometimes the more you think about it, the more confusing it gets, and then you ask someone else, and you get all these opinions where really probably your first thought, which can be your intuitive thought, is the best thought. Okay, so you want to sort of keep that in mind. All right, let's have a look. Going towards the end of the month, Saturn will come out of retrograde as well. This feels to me like it's been a long retrograde. So, you know, Saturn is in Aquarius, and Saturn in Aquarius does give it more energy. So coming out of the retrograde, it works, and and Saturn is Aquarius' original ruler. So in, you know, many ways, it's very comfortable here as well. So that helps to just make, it's a combination of the Aquarius genius thought and the Saturn being able to, you know, put it into firm plans for the future and concrete them is, I feel, a very good sort of connection there. Jupiter, the planet of abundance and expansion, in the sign of Aries. I quite like Jupiter in Aries because, you know, Aries is a little impulsive and action-oriented, and, you know, Jupiter brings opportunities, and, you know, if we just don't do anything about an opportunity and we go, oh yeah, let me think about that. If you think about it for too long, then guess what? That opportunity is just going to pass you by. So in Aries, you know, the two sort of get along in my mind, and I don't always follow, you know, what they say in the textbook, as you'll know if you've been watching me for a while. So I get sort of a highly intuitive sort of feel about you know, about the placements and the interaction of the placements. So I like that, and it's but it is it is retrograde, and it is going to revert back into Pisces. A little heavy in Pisces, okay, but it does help to ground the Pisces energy, and the Pisces energy is highly intuitive and very imaginative, and so in that sense, it can be a little frustrating, but in that sense, it does help to ground that energy. And because, you know, thought without action is simply just a thought, okay? It doesn't go anywhere. So the Saturn, even though it takes a little longer to process and get things done, it's a little more cautious, it does set solid foundations. So, you know, everything in life has a balance to it. You know, it has a positive and negative. Even the great things in your life have a negative, you know, or a drawback. Let's not call it a negative, but, you know, there's a compromise. You do one thing, then you've got to sort of compromise on something else, you know, and that's just the way life happens, right? All right, so we've got like the sun and oh, first of all, Mercury, you know, as I mentioned, is going to do those moves. But then we have, and I'm looking sort of, there's a lot of trines this month. Well, not a lot, I guess, but enough. I mean, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so trines. So the trines, we love the trines because they're like an easy passage, okay? And so there's a lot this month in between Venus, the sun, Mercury. What else is going on? And because Mercury is going through these 3 signs, it's like trining in different areas. So and with so much activity with Mercury, then that automatically says to me, this is a good time for thinking, creating, creative thinking, and just getting things organized. Now, keep in mind, for you to be able to do that, you need to put some time aside, creative time, creative solo time. As you probably heard me say many times, when you just fill up every moment of every day, and I'm a Capricorn, so I had to learn this the hard way and get over like a guilt of just having time off. And it took me a long time to learn that and to let go of that and to realize that you need to step away to do the creating. You need to sort of have a break and just let things sort of, you know, it like introspection, let things just sort of settle in. And then you sleep on it. All the Cancer, I have a Cancer moon, so all the Cancers, guess what, that term, let me sleep on it, was really made for water signs, and in particular Cancer, okay? So when you wake up in the morning, you're fresh. All of a sudden, it's like you've been off in your little dreamland and like corresponded with your guides, and you know, source energy and inspiration comes through, and bang, you've got your answer. You know, everything's a lot clearer. So yeah, you want to sort of keep that in mind. And let's see what else is going on. We do have a few squares too. The squares are like challenges. They're coming from, mainly coming from Capricorn and Libra. So these are both, it's a cardinal square. So it like just helps to, and what is a square? A square is like, it is more of a challenge, but not always a big challenge. It can be like, hey, look at this. Or, oh, did you forget this, you know? And so they just like things for you to come up and check. And so in that sense, it can be very helpful because and particularly in the cardinal signs, it can just put you back on track, you know, like we're all going along and all of a sudden we see a shiny thing over here and off we go. The Geminis do that mainly. So you have a little Gemini in my chart too, so I really understand that. So you want to sort of, and Aries as well can get distracted. So then, you know, the squares can just sort of bring you back. And this, in this sense, it's really about business and relationships, okay? Trust your instincts, learn how to, you know, my podcast that's coming out in second week of October is all about intuition and intuition for business. So, you know, it's on, I do the podcast audio for the podcast, but also in the video for YouTube. So, you know, watch out for that one. There are, you know, there is, like, as I said, a lot of activity in Libra and Scorpio, and the Sun and Venus and Mercury are all going to be departing from Libra and moving into Scorpio. So as the month progresses, and then we have that solar eclipse also on around the 25th in Scorpio as well. So Scorpio is a very intense sign. This is great for your intuition, a great time to really focus on and making the commitment to get to know your intuition more, to work with it. And so in that sense, this is, you know, a really great time to find out what are you passionate about? You know, what gets you up in the morning, or are you, you know, pressing the alarm and the reset button all the time? If that's the case, then maybe you don't have enough in your life to feel passionate about, you know. When the alarm gets off and then you're planning your day and you want to get up and meditate and go for a walk, you know, then you're filled with more energy. If you don't have that feeling in the morning, you know, think about really my programs, my self-mastery. It seems like everybody on the planet has a self-mastery program. But yeah, this would be a really good program for you. It is at the moment as a one-on-one consultation, so it is a little more expensive. I am in the process of putting it on online so you can do it yourself, which will be a fraction of the price. I'll let you know in the newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter, go to jenniferangel.com and sign up for that, and I'll let you know through there. All right, so I'm going to close off from this now. I mean, you can just, there's quite a lot going on this month, but you know, I think this is like a good time to close off. So I could leave you with one word with all this energy going into Scorpio. It's like, find out what you are passionate about, okay? And be prepared to step out of your comfort zone, because the one thing that the Scorpio does, and it's ruled by Mars and Pluto, is that it is able to take a deep breath, feel the fear, and do it anyway. That's the title of a book, which was an influential book for many years ago. I read, somebody by the name of Jeffries. If it's still on the market, then it's worth getting, but probably read that about 35 years ago or so. And I was very young. All right, so thanks so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead now and do the individual reports. I hope you're having a great week, and I hope you have an amazing month. Please follow and share. I'd appreciate that. Thanks so much. Bye for now.